After 4 years, human remains found washed upon Douglas Lake have been identified as a man from Knoxville.
On March 10, 2019, police responded to a call from a local homeowner who discovered a bag washed up on the shoreline of Douglas Lake, Tennessee. After arriving at the scene, police dragged the bag away from the water's edge. As deputies geared themselves to check the contents, no one expected to discover the gory contents within. Inside was a human body, missing its head and hands. But who was this person, and how did they end up stuffed in a bag on a lake? Hello, and welcome back to Mysterious 7, where we cover solved, unsolved, and twisted cases from around the world. But before we delve any further, please take the time to show your support by subscribing to our channel, liking our videos, and clicking on that notification bell to receive the latest videos straight to your inbox. Today, we take a look at the case of the man in the bag. When one thinks of Tennessee, you can't help but conjure up thoughts of great food, country music, and whiskey. Tennessee is the epicenter of barbecue and is famous for ribs and crispy chicken. Possibly one of the most famous brands to be born in Tennessee is Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 whiskey. But perhaps most notable, it's the state that's been home to some of the most famous music stars in history, such as Elvis Presley, Dolly Parton, and Justin Timberlake. Tennessee is known as the volunteer state, as many of its citizens have come forward to serve their country during times of war. It's also home to the Great Smoky Mountains, a mountain range that appears to always be surrounded by an almost mythical mist. Today, our case takes us to Douglas Lake in Dandridge, Tennessee, and a case that baffled law enforcement until new DNA technology helped solve the mystery, or at least half of it. March 10, 2019 was a lazy Sunday as a homeowner walked along his property on the banks of Douglas Lake in Tennessee. As he looked toward the pristine waters of the lake, he noticed a bag bobbing away in the water. Curious, he stood and watched as the slow-moving current gently brought the bag to the shoreline. Once it settled onto the shoreline, the homeowner made a call to the local sheriff's office, informing them of a suspicious bag he discovered while on his property overlooking the lake. Wasting no time, deputies from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office arrived at the property. Law enforcement knew that Tennessee was a well-used transit area for contraband, particularly cocaine, marijuana, and methamphetamine. Its mountainous terrain and wide-open rural areas made it easy for traffickers to use the area to distribute these contraband substances to other states in the country. Having secured the area and pulled the bag away from the waters, they prepared to open the golf bag to reveal its contents. None of the officials present expected to find what they did. Inside was what appeared to be a human body, minus the head and hands. It was obvious this crime scene was now a homicide investigation. The remains were sent to the Knox County Regional Forensic Center for an autopsy. Agents from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, along with deputies from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office and the 4th Judicial District Attorney's Office, launched an immediate investigation. Together, they began canvassing the area, hoping to discover any evidence that could lead to identifying the remains. Questioning of possible eyewitnesses and other property owners along Douglas Lake led nowhere. It seemed no one had seen anything suspicious in the area at the time, or in the weeks leading up to the discovery. Investigators theorized that the bag may have been dumped further upstream. Investigators made use of specialized dive teams to search the lake, while officers from the sheriff's office began looking into missing persons databases from several surrounding counties. Nothing had come up on the databases, and by Wednesday afternoon, March 13, 2019, Jefferson County Sheriff Jeff Coffey said that there had been no new discovery or leads. In the meantime, the county coroner had prepared his report based on the autopsy. The manner of death was determined to be a homicide. However, the cause of death could not be confirmed. The remains were unrecognizable, and had already reached an advanced stage of decomposition. Due to the state of the remains, the coroner could not determine the date of death either. Prior to beginning the autopsy, investigators could not clearly identify the race of the John Doe. However, after cleaning the body, the coroner determined the remains were that of a white male. His age was estimated to be between 30 and 45 years old, with a height of between 5 feet 7 inches and 5 feet 10 inches. There was a lack of birthmarks or tattoos that could have been used to identify him. The lack of a head and hands made the task of identifying him harder, but not impossible. There was no way to determine hair or eye color, nor was there any way to use dental records or fingerprints to compare the Doe on any databases. The coroner was able to extract DNA that could be used to create a profile to identify the man. The coroner provided a brief description of the items found with the remains. John Doe was wearing a black Walking Dead t-shirt, blue jeans, a black belt with the name Gerald imprinted on it, a white belt buckle with a horseshoe and horsehead. There were no personal items or any jewelry found on the body or in the bag. He was given the placeholder name of the Jefferson County John Doe and was buried a month later in a county cemetery. Investigation teams used the DNA and created a working profile to use to identify the John Doe on both missing persons databases and criminal databases. It was initially assumed his name may have been Gerald, as the name was imprinted on the belt he was wearing at the time, but no one with the name of Gerald on any databases matched with the John Doe. There was still no lead, so investigators began using other means to identify him. They turned to the media and provided news outlets with the description of the John Doe, where he was found, and what items were on him at the time of the discovery. However, after months of searching and looking through several leads and tips, there was nothing more investigators could do, except turn to a new method being used to identify unknown victims: investigative genetic genealogy. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation turned to a new technology that had started making waves in the last 5 years: genetic genealogy testing. Working with a DNA profile, geneticists were able to reverse engineer the genetic profile of the John Doe and link his profile to several other names from volunteer genealogy websites. However, the process took much longer than anticipated, as they could still not find a close enough match. That was until investigators stumbled across an obituary in a local newspaper that had the names of several of the possible DNA samples that matched their John Doe. The sample they discovered could possibly have come from a grandparent. Investigators visited the family whose DNA samples matched the profile of the John Doe to some degree. After much questioning, they discovered from another biological relative that it was possible that John Doe was one of many children that was given up for adoption. They also provided key information as to who the other family was. When visited, the second family volunteered their DNA samples in order to help with the case. A year later, in July 2021, the results found that both families had strong genetic ties to the John Doe. But his identity was still withheld until they could confirm that the John Doe found at Douglas Lake was in fact the same person matching. But there was yet another hurdle for investigators to overcome. John Doe's biological family knew his remains were found, but they had no idea of who he really was. He'd been put up for adoption at a very young age. It was now time for investigators and researchers to dig deep into the foster care system and look to find the family that was responsible for raising him all those years. After months of going through various adoption agencies and foster care databases, they finally identified a family in Knoxville, Tennessee. Investigators officially released his name to the public in January 2023. He was 28-year-old Earl Joseph Pizzoferrato. Earl Joseph Pizzoferrato was born on July 29, 1991. He was born and raised in Knoxville, Tennessee. The name of his father remains off record, but his mother is listed as Linda Pizzoferrato, and according to his obituary, he had several brothers and sisters. He attended Cherokee High School in Rogersville, Tennessee, and while at school was a member of the Reserve Officers Training Club. Earl, according to reports, enjoyed outdoor activities such as camping, four-wheeling, and adventure sports. He also enjoyed working with his hands and tending to horses. When he was 23 years old, Earl was arrested for domestic assault on May 23, 2015. He was held on a bond of $1,500 and released when bail was posted soon after. Since then, there was not much information about him made available to the media. Following the identification of Earl, his family was given his remains, which were cremated at the Dogwood Cemetery funeral home. His family have not spoken publicly of his life or death since it was revealed that he was the man found in the bag at Douglas Lake in 2019. Investigators have not revealed why Earl was not reported missing by his family. However, a TikTok video has been uploaded asking the public to help find Earl's murderer. Much of Earl's past remains unknown as investigations continue. Although there's not been any official theory as to what really happened to Earl Pizzaferrato, true crime buffs have speculated many possible reasons for his brutal death. One of several theories is that Earl ran away from home and has been living a transient life. Many believe he may have run afoul of people involved in criminal activities and became a witness that needed to be silenced. He may have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's also the belief that someone from Earl's past may have gotten into an altercation with him over his criminal past. He was eventually charged with domestic violence. His death could have been accidental, and in fear, his killer tried to dispose of the body in order to evade capture. Another theory was that Earl became involved in the drug trafficking ring after leaving home. Some online forums believe that Earl may have joined a gang and become involved in the illegal distribution of contraband substances. Earl, they believe, may have been either killed by a rival gang or was taken out by his very own gang. These thoughts are only theories developed by people who have followed the case and are purely speculation and not confirmed by officials. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is still pursuing leads related to the death of Earl Joseph Pizzaferrato, as it remains an active and ongoing investigation. The Bureau is asking anyone who may have known Earl or had any idea of his last whereabouts to contact their department with information that could help solve the case. Genetic genealogy has proven to be a game changer in identifying the unknown victims of cold cases, and hopefully helps bring closure to the families who have suffered in silence. Today's case is also a testament to investigators who strive to perform their duties to the public and bring justice to those who have been silenced tragically. So, what did you think of today's case? And what could have led to the tragic death of Earl Joseph Pizzaferrato? Do you think the belt buckle was a red herring? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe.